Welcome to PrimeAlpha's interview series, insights from industry practitioners discussing their journey and their discoveries. Hello, my name is Amanda Jogia, the CEO of PrimeAlpha, an online ecosystem bringing together alternative opportunities and their investors. I would like to introduce Kim King, General Partner of Launch Factory, a venture capital and growth startup studio. Launch Factory, built in 2018, provides investors proprietary deal flow, deploying capital into early-stage startups at significantly below market valuations and maximizing returns through hands-on, expert-led acceleration of each portfolio company. Welcome, Kim. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So excited to hear about your journey. I'm always looking to highlight women founders, so I'd love to hear about your journey.
Well, great. So I started my career actually as an engineer. I was at Stanford studying industrial engineering and decided to go into the world of consulting. So worked at Anderson Consulting for 4 years, but always knew I wanted to go to business school. So that was always in the plan. So I went to Harvard Business School, class of 1994, and spent some time at Microsoft and was really deciding whether or not to go back to Microsoft, product manager, or do something else, maybe entrepreneurial. And I started talking to venture capitalists from my 2 schools about opportunities in the portfolio companies. And 2 of them asked me if I had considered venture capital. So I ended up joining Bank America Ventures, which was located in Southern California and then relocated to Foster City later that year, and spent 3 years as an associate at Bank America Ventures. And found out 2 things. One, I love startups and I loved investing. So I really found the place I wanted to be in terms of career. About 3 years later, however, I was recruited by IDG Ventures. So after I had spent some time in venture capital, you also start to develop some of the things that you would want in your own fund. And so I found that with IDG Ventures. So joined there as a junior partner, then 1 year later, after some investments, made general partner, and spent a number of years both in the San Francisco office for IDG Ventures and opened up the office in Seattle. So we were a captive $120 million fund. We leveraged both the brand and the assets of IDG, which is International Data Group. Many people know InfoWorld, Network World, Computer World, IDC. Those were all IDG assets. So we had a very successful portfolio there. So that was kind of my experience in venture capital. I then decided to move my family back down to San Diego and was thinking about doing another fund. So we actually were on the verge of closing a fund when a few things happened. So I ended up instead teaching. So I'm an adjunct professor for both UCSD and San Diego State. I run the StartR program at UCSD. That's an accelerator for the Rady students and alumni, as well as we have programs for undergraduates. And then I worked with a variety of different startups, both advising, investing, was in-house business development, acting CFO of Pathway Genomics. I'm just involved with Eva Nexus Local Accelerator. And one of my students introduced me to Brad. Brad Chisholm is the founder of Launch Factory. And he had a company that he sold to Google before starting Launch Factory. And so I came into the offices and was really excited about what they were doing. It very much aligned with how I saw not only the world of venture capital changing, but also constantly wanting to learn and make things better. So venture capital model is a great model, especially for diversifying a portfolio. But it's very hard for a founder who doesn't either have the support system or have the financial backing to start a company. And with Launch Factory, we're really leveling the playing field. So I like the fact that they were focused on diversity, of adding more different types of founders. And that's when I decided to join formally Launch Factory as a partner last September.
Incredible story. How do you look at your startups? How do you do that evaluation and what gets you excited?
So with the Venture Studio, we actually create companies. So our first part is the innovation channel. So we spend time looking at market needs, investigating market, really doing our due diligence and homework to decide what areas that we want to play in. Once we have selected those ideas, then we go out and have a process for our founder selection process. And it's a pretty interesting, I would say, very unique process because it's run kind of like as a competition. So it would be 6 to 8 weeks. And the first half of the process is actually completely blind. We do not see the teams. All we know is the team names. So that's how we think of the leveling the playing field. So those first impressions are really formed on their work product versus what someone looks like or what school they've gone to. And then the other half of the process, we really want to get to know the founders before selecting them. So for this year's class, for our 2021 fund, we have 4 new portfolio companies. So they were selected and then they all started this summer in our offices in San Diego.
I think that's so incredible that you do a blinds lens view because I'm very much into gender lens investing and the stats on women and when they have startups and how few of them get invested. This definitely levels the playing field. Since starting your firm, it's a pretty relatively young firm. What's been really such a game changer for you guys in terms of what have you guys done right or help your clients?
I think 2 things have been really game changers. One is our process of innovation. We've really developed that over the last couple of years and have learned how to use both domain experts as well as advisors to help us in selecting of those areas that we want to invest in. And then I would second it, the one we've spent a lot of time on is, I would say, our incubation process and the committee I run, which is the Strategic Exit Committee. So we really do believe it takes a village in terms of building a company. Founders that have a lot of support and help are the founders and companies that do well. For Launch Factory, we actually put in the first 2, comes out of our equity, the first 2 advisors to those companies and have a whole host of advisors and resources that we use through our incubation process. We really treat them as a cohort. This year's companies we're really excited about. We've already achieved in just 3 or 4 months. One of the first companies already have revenue and most have their minimal viable product already. I think that's really a testament to both the venture studio model and our process of incubation and helping these companies and guiding these companies once we have selected those founders and invested.
That whole saying, it takes a village, it so resonates with you guys at Launch Factory. I had the pleasure of meeting Brad, who's sold his company and he's a serial entrepreneur. You with your incredible background on the venture side, your incredible advisory network, the fact that you guys are so different than other venture firms because of the support that you provide. Can you talk a little bit more about that network and the village factor of Launch Factory?
And also talk about our extended team. So there's 3 partners at Launch Factory. So we really believe we have that serial entrepreneur experience, that investing VC experience, and then the operations and the operating experience. Other kind of key members of our team, Andy Ballister is our EIR, is our CTO. Imagine you're a young company and you get to be mentored by Andy Ballister, who's the founder of GoFundMe. We also have Bill Arbon, who helps on the incubation process and directs that area. And then we have a host of strategic advisors for the fund, as well as advisors for the portfolio companies as a whole. And then individually, they have their own advisors. For example, recruited an advisor to the fund for our AI companies that we're going to be launching next year. And this person is world renowned, very much kind of world-class leader and thought leader in the AI space. So we're able to bring in that talent really when we need it, whether it's with the incubation process, when we're looking at due diligence and market area, all the way to we have a portfolio company with different needs. And we really think that helps us not only provide the right foundation, but those introductions to early customers, introductions on the recruiting side as they bring people in, introductions for partnerships. We think that's all kind of part of that process.
Fantastic. Launch Factory being in a unique position to think about your investors on one side, and then you have entrepreneurs on the other side. What are some of the key things that investors should think about when they're looking at venture? And then also from entrepreneurs' perspective, when they're deciding which venture fund they should be working with, what are some of the considerations they should have as well?
So I'll start off with the entrepreneurs. It is just as important that the entrepreneurs do their due diligence on their investors and their partners as they do as the investors investing in them. And the same thing holds true in the venture studio model. As we go for our founder selection, we do spend a lot of time, even just happy hours, talking to those folks, getting comfortable with those folks. When you invest in a company and you invest in a founder, it really is like a marriage. It's a partnership. So you want to do that due diligence. You want to really understand that person's mindset, I would say, on both sides, and make sure that you're very much aligned in terms of what those goals are. We want all of our companies to be successful. We want them to be diverse teams that really will build really great companies. So I'll also talk about on the investor side. So when we look at our LPs, one of the things we provide at a venture studio is access to deal flow. So not only are they invested in the fund in very early stage in our portfolio companies, but they have follow-on rights to invest in those companies in the future. We think that's very important, especially in a market like today's market, where we're seeing valuations really climb. So if you want to get in at a good valuation, you need to be early. And a lot of times you need to kind of secure your spot for future rounds. We didn't have that for our first company, OmniSync, since it was funded solely by one of our founders, by Brad. And when we went out with the strategic exit committee to help them go fundraise, we were pleasantly surprised and ended up raising twice as much money, but not from angels, but from institutions. So now we have that built in, that our limited partners, who are high net worth individuals, foundations, family offices, and institutional investors, have those co-investment rights.
Fantastic. So Kim, I'm going to go back to your journey and ask you, in your career journey, what was that pivotal moment saying, aha, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about?
So that pivotal moment came for me after many years when I was in venture capital. So when I was at Bank of America Ventures, and I really realized this was my passion. This is what I really wanted to do. I was fortunate enough to be mentored by some great women VCs and Winblad, as well as peers like Sonia Howell. And I'm a part of Broadway Angels, so have that support group. And one of the things that we would talk about would be, what is that ideal career path? What would you do if you had your own fund? Because we all worked at large funds. And what would we kind of want to do next? For some, like Sonia, she decided to do nonprofit and also the angel group. I decided to then go back into teaching. I really feel I love to help people. I love advising. And it wasn't until actually I met Brad that I had that desire to go back into the venture capital world because of their mission, because of what they wanted to do, which was a little bit different than what had been done in the past. And I really feel like I could make an impact by joining the group.
Incredible. So I'm going to ask you my favorite question, Kim. What is your superpower and why?
I love this question, and I'm going to use it in the future because I think it's such a great question. So I asked myself that question. I also asked my husband and my daughter because I wanted to see if they felt similar in terms of that. So I really think my superpower is reading people. I have a knack for understanding when people are telling the truth. My husband says I am a built-in lie detector, and I can really kind of figure out what is it about that person's character, that grit, especially things that come out with entrepreneurship. So this helps me a lot in the founder selection process because I can read people. I can really kind of understand where they're coming from, what their motivations are, and I spend that time really getting to know them. I think the other part of that superpower is the networking. I'm a connector. I love connecting people together. I have a very extensive network of people, and I actually find joy of putting people together and creating those partnerships, whether it be within Launchfactor or other areas. I really kind of believe that superpower is to help people, and to spread that.
We have a lot in common, Kim. We really do. When I was little, I said, I want to be a teacher. That's what I wanted to be.
The funny thing is I had no idea I ever would want to be a teacher. I kind of fell into it, similar to venture capital, where someone asked me, would I come be a guest lecturer? I did that. And then they're like, well, could you teach this class at Brady at the business schools? So I did that. They're like, well, we have this accelerator program. So you kind of get hooked in. it does really kind of help you highlight the things that you love to do. So working with entrepreneurs, working with students, helping people realize their dreams. I love being a part of that.
Yeah, that's your joy. That's your joy. Thank you so much, Kim. I loved having you on. Would love to have you back on again. I know we're going to bring Brad on as well. So thank you so much.
Great. It was a joy. Very nice meeting you and look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank you.